Good morning, good morning, good morning. Um, it's been a joy this morning, let me say, the least of which we have worked with technical issues on our other platforms. So we're very happy that we have our um, Teams platform here so that we can work it out. And today we're in week 2 of living the principles. And the focus is love. The focus is love. How unique, how timely with everything that's going on in the world and with many of our lives to be focused on love. But before we dive into love, we want to remind ourselves that there is an infinite source available to not just you, not just me, but to everyone. It's there for anyone who seeks it. It doesn't matter about their race or their gender or their religion. You can believe what you may, but you should know that the source of the universe is also the source of each of us. Therefore, the principle supporting the stars is the principle supporting and available to each of us. As I declare this in the first person, I declare it for all. I am open. I am receptive to this divine living principle. Father, Mother God, I am grateful. This is my declaration. This is my truth. And as I accept it, so it becomes, and all is well, and well indeed. So we want to just take a moment to say to folks that may be on YouTube or Facebook at this time, and hopefully we'll remind them again a little later, that for some reason the service that streams out to those platforms is not showing video. We don't know why, but it's not showing video. We've done everything we can on our part. But they do seem to be able to pick up and show or listen, stream out audio. So if you are on one of those platforms and you wish to uh, see what's going on and not just hear it, we invite you to come over to our team platform, which is tiny, tiny.cc /UR circle. That's the letter U, the letter R, and then the word circle. And that should bring you over and we'll let you in as you come over. But if you're comfortable just listening, hey, that's great too. No problem at all. Those of you that have been here before, have participated in the first week, I want to welcome you back. And for those of you that this might be your first time and you're listening on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or any of our other streams, I want to welcome you to Practical Spiritual Living from Unity of Chicago South, which is a beyond walls spiritual community. And I am Reverend R. Ken, your guide in this journey as we continue to move from theory, which we spent 5 weeks on, into expression, from theory to expression. Now, we began this last week, this Living the Principles series. And we began with where things began, where everything begins, and that's with faith. Faith, the willingness to continue moving even before results appear, moving even before. And I spoke with someone during the week, and I mentioned to them that that's probably one of the major challenges that we face as human beings. And that is that we have some call it procrastination, but there's a tendency that we want to know what's going to happen before we make a move. We want to know how it's going to turn out before we make a move. And we say, some say that that's a lack of faith. Well, it may be not understanding what faith is. And hopefully, last week we were able to share a different perspective on faith and how it works and what it does. And I do know that that video is up on YouTube and also on Facebook. So if you'd like to go back and look at it, you're more than welcome. But today, we move into another principle that is also often misunderstood, and that is love. Love, not simply as emotion, but as spiritual practice. Love as spiritual practice. We're told from the letters from John, or epistles, as many call them, perfect love casts out fear. Perfect love casts out fear. Wow. So if I'm fearing things, if I'm fearing taking the next step, it's not just procrastination. That is kind of the symptom, but the cause is fear. Love is harmonizing. It's a harmonizing faculty of the soul. That's what Charles Fillmore tells us. And love points the way, and law makes the way possible. That's what Ernest Holmes shares. So love has many facets. It's one of the most used words, and often one of the least understood principles. You see, most people think of love primarily as emotion, something we feel, something that rises and falls depending on circumstances. But in New Thought, love is understood a bit differently. Love is not merely emotional attachment. Love is a harmonizing energy. When there's love being practiced in a situation, harmony finds its way in. It's a spiritual capacity that helps bring our lives into alignment. Ernest Holmes expands this idea when he says, love points the way and law makes the way possible. You see, what that suggests, it suggests something very, very important, that love is not passive, that love helps direct consciousness, that harmonizing way of living life. And we have to understand that what we constantly hold in consciousness helps shape how we experience life and relationships. Love held in consciousness again and again, practiced again and again, to be held in consciousness affects our lives, our relationships, everything. Again, we're talking about the spiritual principle. The spiritual principle, not the emotional action. Can we even separate them? We hope so today. We hope that we can clarify the spiritual principle aspect, as we all have an idea of the emotional aspect and how it should play out. Charles Fillmore describes love as the harmonizing faculty of the soul. And again, we want to deal with the word harmonizing because that's very, very important. Harmony does not mean that everything becomes identical. Well, if I'm harmonizing with the job situation, if I'm harmonizing with my partner, if I'm harmonizing with the challenges that I'm going through, if I harmonize with them, that doesn't mean that I'm agreeing with them. We are one. Not at all. Harmony means different elements. It means learning to move together without destroying each other. You say, whoa, how does that work with an illness, with a challenge? How to move together without destroying each other? You are in my life. This situation is in my life. We're going to move forward because I'm letting go of fear. I'm replacing it with love to harmonize what I need to move you out my life so that I can move through my life. So you say, well, what are you saying? Tell me again, Reverend. Tell me in a different way. Sometimes we fight scenarios. We fight the situations, the circumstances that we find ourselves in. We fight them. And when we fight them, that is fear expressing. I know that's a hard one. As it comes out of my mouth, it's a hard one. But when we find a way to harmonize, you are here, I understand you are here, but you're not the controlling factor. So I'm at peace with your presence, but that doesn't mean that you can move in. You're here for the moment. I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to put my energies in releasing you. Releasing you. Wow. That's nice. I want to release you. You see, music is harmony, but the harmony is between the beats. Huh? You see, if there wasn't that in between the beats, there would not be music. It would just be noise. But there's a pause that happens between the beats that allows the harmony to come forth. We can take a note for that in our lives. Nature is harmony. Healthy relationships with anything requires harmony with each other, with a job, with money, with finance, with circumstances in our lives. If we want them to become healthy, it requires some harmony, not agreeing with the situation, but finding peace within ourselves as we move through the situation. You see, because inner peace is a form of harmony. In many of the Buddhist traditions, love is understood not as possession, but as compassionate presence. Think about that for a moment. Let's just take that into one of our situations. I don't like the challenge I'm facing, whatever it is. I'm not going to name it. Name your own challenge. But it's not my job to fight that challenge. It's my job to find compassion within me, in my presence, not the presence of it. Because as I deal with my harmony and harmony becomes stronger in my life, that must dissipate. But that's not how we're brought up. That's not what we're told. That's not what we are given as instructions to go out to life in life. We're told, fight, 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 fight. And we have war, 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 war. And we have situations that we live in this country with today because the compassion presence in the many people that voted against their own interests was not there. We want to develop a willingness to remain open-hearted without attachment to control. I don't control you, situation, but I control how I respond. And it's the harmony within me that allows me to respond with a spiritual love, which overcomes whatever you're bringing to the table. See, love Love is not weakness. Actually, it's strength. It's the ability to remain spiritually centered while engaging in life, So while I'm going through this stuff, I'm staying focused. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. And that's where our meditation, our practice, our reading comes in to help take the edge off at least. You see. But it still becomes difficult even with the practices because fear, disappointment, anger, and emotional wounds from our past often pull us away from that center that we're working to develop within us, that inner center of harmony. So many people think that love means always agreeing, always accepting, always tolerating harmful behavior. It does not. Because love requires wisdom, because without it, there's an imbalance. Real love can include truth, boundaries, clarity, and accountability. He said, wow, I love myself. What are your boundaries? How clear are you? And do you hold yourself accountable? Because it's hard. As we go through various challenges, I'm going through some myself. And that accountability, that one can be so challenging. But if we're able to do it, we're able to bring forth more harmony within ourselves. We're able to get that center in harmony with our lives. Bell Hooks reminds us love is an action. Love is an action, never simply a feeling. Love is an action. That means that love is practiced, not merely spoken, not merely posted, but practiced. Khalil Gibran says, let there be spaces in your togetherness. Let there be spaces into your togetherness. And that reminds us that love is not ownership. Love requires room for growth, room for individuality, room for becoming. And you say, well, that's good in a relationship, but you talked about situations. Yes, in those situations, space is required. It's called getaway. It's called weekends. It's called pausing. It's called being silly. But separating ourselves from whatever the circumstances are or may be. You see, if we look at it on a practical level, love may look like listening instead of reacting, pausing before responding, choosing understanding instead of escalation, or just simply refusing to allow bitterness to become identity. And often the greatest challenge is not learning to love others, but learning not to abandon ourselves while engaging others. I want to pause again for a reminder. If you happen to be listening on any of the social platforms, we invite you to come on over to our team platform where we have both video and audio. Again, our apologies, but this is a technical issue that is totally not related to us, our equipment, this has something to do with the platform, and we certainly will address it in the future. But again, that's tiny. Yes, thank you. That is tiny, and that can be HTTPS colon // TINY .cc / UR, those initials, those letters U and R, and then circle, CIRCLE. Thank you so much for that reminder. Right on time. And as we move back into where we are today about love, we want to talk about ourselves and our community. You see, for many communities, especially within our community, that Black experience, love has often been expressed through our resilience, through our caring for others, through our caring for our elders and our children, through survival, through continuing to affirm our humanity in environments that deny it, just as it is trying to do today, as votes, the right to vote is being shacked away, just jerked and shackled away from people who are the ancestors of those that marched and died for it. You see, to continue to be a loving person without becoming consumed by bitterness or hate, that's what we do. And that has been and will continue to be for us, I believe, a spiritual act. And for those of you that are on our platform, this is the time, and that's our team platform, again, tiny.cc / UR circle. This is where we sit aside time each week that we can engage, that we can explore together. And we have to understand that there is no perfect answer here. It's just your experience. And I want to pose this question. And one of the reasons we pose it, no matter about the participation here on our platform, when you listen to this or see it later on in the week, you can ask yourself these questions, because that's the only answer that's relevant, the one that comes from within you, that place that we talk about of harmony, that you want to live in that peace. So asking yourself and getting an answer from that place, that soul, that source, helps develop that harmony. And I would like you to think of a moment when you responded with love and you knew that you were doing it, and it changed the direction of a situation. It may have been you were in a store, you were engaged on the phone with someone, you were at work, and you were almost there, ready to go off, and you remembered to calm yourself. You took a pause and you said, wait a minute. And your response allowed the situation to, as my friend says, de-escalate. Think of a time like that. Ponder on that and allow that which is within you to take you to that place. Even the place that you almost did it, but you just couldn't make it happen. You just got on that last nerve, but you were ready to just kind of de-escalate. And you said, wait a minute, don't say one more word. Even if it's there. Can you think of any? Why do you think that it's difficult to remain centered when emotions become intense? Oh, that's a great one. That's one that I will take with me to answer, because when it gets tense, it's hard to remember. It's hard to hold on to that harmony within me. It's there, but will I allow it to come forth? You say, well, if it's there, I mean, what do you mean? It's there. How can you say such a thing? That is there. I can say that it's there for the simple fact that just as the source of me has always been there, so is the harmony. It is my decision, it's my free will to allow it to come forth, or to allow the hatred or the anger to come forth instead. And today's final sharing. In your mind, in your opinion, in your vision, what does healthy love look like in everyday living? Understand, love is not about perfection. It's about practice. You see, those last three questions that we asked our inner self come about. The answers come about with practice. The proper answer, the answer that we want, the harmony that we're going for, only comes about with the practice. So if it's not there, don't be discouraged. Because with practice, you can bring it forth because it's already in there. We have to return again and again to the decision not to let fear, not to let resentment, or not to let anger become our center. And it is such a challenge, is it not? Rumi wrote, your task, our task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within ourselves that we have against it. Again, free will allows us to choose to allow the harmony that's within us to be expressed in our lives. It's already there. There's harmony within our body, with our organs. There's a harmony within our bodies for its function. There's harmonies within our soul, because if it was not within our soul, it could not be in our bodies. And when we think about those barriers, we started with this and we're here again. The greatest barrier is fear. Sometimes we just don't recognize it. We just don't see it as fear. We just don't see it as fear. We give it all types of other names. But fear is the core. Sometimes disappointment, sometimes old pain, and sometimes the fear of vulnerability itself. But fear. But the beauty, the joy, the strength is that love continues to invite us back toward wholeness, back toward connection, back toward the harmony that already exists. Our spiritual inquiry today, the one that we purposely asked ourselves and do not try to answer with our brain, with our mind, but allow our soul to guide us, to trust it. Why am I learning to respond to life with greater clarity, compassion, and balance? Why am I learning to respond to life differently? With compassion, with balance, and leave it. Allow it to be answered by that which is within us, the source of us. You know, faith allows us to continue to go through even when the odds seem against us and the road seems dark. And love allows us to remain connected to that harmony, that source of us, without losing ourselves through the struggle, in the struggle. Next week, we continue our series of living the principles. And I invite you to come at 11 o'clock and spread the word. But also, we began a special session immediately, well, small break, following our practical spiritual living. We began a new 5-week exploration, healing in practice. So how does that work? Well, we go through our normal celebration, which is 30, 35 minutes. We open the door for interaction. And at the end, we pause and we move into a new consciousness, one of focused on one thing, healing in this case, spiritual healing. And we'll be guided by some of the metaphysical teachers, some of the spiritual teachers that we have studied, leaned on, even heard of, like Charles Fillmore, Ernest Holmes, Emma Curtis Hopkins, Neville Goddard, and Joel Goldsmith. Now you can learn more about this process on our website at unityocs.org. Wow, thank you so much for being with us. And if you happen to have stayed on Facebook, YouTube, or any of those to listen, the video will be posted later on today, and you can see and hear the whole thing. And we do apologize to you. But again, that's an issue with the platform, not with us. We've done enough issue things. Okay. But until next week, a double dose of spirituality, of practical spiritual learning and teaching, of practical spiritual expression from the Unity of Chicago South spiritual family. I'm Reverend Arkin, reminding you that you are divinely loved, not because of what you have done with your life, but because that is the nature of the Creator. With that, I bid you blessings and bliss, and thank you so much for being a part of our service.